Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys Alex and Ryan. So today we're talking about a genius move the Yankees made, and I'll tell you what, Ryan, we kind of mentioned they should do this a couple days ago. Maybe it was about a week ago. We suggested, why is Austin Wells not batting cleanup for this Yankee team? Why are they not utilizing his power? Why is Alex Verdugo and his lack of power sitting in the cleanup spot, basically just representing an automatic out or weak contact? We didn't really get it. It made no sense. Now, Austin Wells moved to the cleanup spot. Yesterday, he had 3 hits, including a solo homer. He's already looking like the part. He's providing a lot more slugging prowess. Obviously, a bunch of players hit home runs yesterday. Soto had 2. Volpe had 1. DJ LeMahieu had 1, of course, Wells. So you're kind of seeing this entire team start to look like they have some life. Now, we need to see more consistency. You can't have a great game and then the next day and the next couple days be awful. But Austin Wells has been really, really good over the past month or so. And I think that this is really a graduation for him from going from a rookie, like kind of learning the ropes, to a guy who can make an instant impact and make an impact the rest of the way. Even when Jose Trevino comes back, if he's hitting this well, I don't see how Trevino comes in and plays his everyday role, or at least comes in platoons the way they were previously. I think they have to keep playing Wells as a prominent piece here. So, Ryan, what are your thoughts on Wells offensively taking over that cleanup spot? I mean, to me, it's night and day. This is a much better situation the Yankees have found themselves in than in previous days.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing for Austin Wells is the big development he's had this year. And I know people are going to point to the offense, and offense is extremely important. I understand that. Offense is the thing that you can visibly see the impact of. But it's defensively where I feel the most impressed with Austin Wells. I expected him to, provide some sort of offense. I was disappointed with the initial results offensively, but at the same time, he's a rookie. We're not even 90 games into his major league career. But the defense had blown me away. He has become not just a good defender, not just a strong defender. He is a truly elite defensive catcher, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that. Among all catchers, remember, guys, Austin Wells has not played a full-time catching role. So his volume stats, or what you would consider like stats that get better, with more playing time or with more innings played, like Austin Wells is third in all of baseball among catchers in defensive runs saved with 9. He has 6.2 framing runs. That's 7th. He has a 10.6 defensive runs on Fangraphs. That's 7th as well. 6 fielding run value. That's 8th. This is the kind of catcher where, like, if you were to take his defensive value, I think Trevino is the better defensive player because he's a better framer. I know Wells is the better thrower of the baseball, but I think framing is such an important skill that, there's a reason why almost every site rates Trevino as one of, if not the best defensive catcher in the game. Wells isn't a step back from that. It doesn't feel like Wells is this, you feel you don't feel necessarily the harm in your pitching staff. You don't feel like you're getting a worse thrower, a worse blocker. You're getting a great defensive catcher, and that's awesome, because if you're talking about one of the 10 best defensive catchers in baseball this year, and then you pair that with an above average bat, Alex, that's when we start talking about that next level of catchers, right? So, obviously you have guys like, the Austin Hedges of the world, the Christian Vasquez of the world, where they can't really hit, but they can play great defense. Wells separates himself from that category. He separates himself from even the guys like a Wilson Contreras with the St. Louis Cardinals, who's historically not a great defender, or Mitch Garver with the Seattle Mariners, who's historically not a great defender, or Salvador Perez, who his framing metrics has never been good in his career. Those kinds of players where they mash, they hit the ball hard, they can put up a good offensive value, but they're not a great defensive option. Wells is a great blend between the two, and it feels like he's ascending offensively. I did a video breaking down his load mechanics and his change and how he's quieted down his leg kick, and it's allowing him to time up the baseball and get out in front. And we're seeing him attack baseballs to right field, Alex, and that's where his sweet spot needs to be. The porch in right field needs to be his best friend, because that's what that ballpark is built for. It's built for lefties who pull the ball in the air, and Wells has done that consistently. Yesterday's game, he hit 3 balls over 100 miles an hour. He was scalding the baseball. In a sense, Yankee Stadium actually probably held back what should have been a double for him that ended up being just a single. And you can also see him fight off balls the other way, like we can see him shoot the ball the other way when needed. Am I sitting here saying Austin Wells is this generational offensive player? No, right? Do we know if he's a star or not? No. Do we know if he's going to remain an above average hitter or not? No. But what we do know right now, Alex, is that he's got the power. He's improved his game power. His defense behind the plate is unbelievable. We're seeing him even get better at throwing guys out. Like, I think he has an above average caught stealing rate compared to the major league average, because the major league average is around 76% in terms of how often guys convert steal attempts. Austin Wells is around 75%. Again, that's not a massive difference, but it is still just a smidge better than major league average. So, yeah, I mean, Alex, I'm super impressed with what he's done so far.
Yeah, I mean, look, this team has really leaned on youth to carry a lot of their liabilities and their vulnerabilities, ranging from offensive to defensive measures. Ben Rice has been okay at first base, solid, you could even say. Offensively, he had a really, really hot start, has quieted down. I think he's hitting like 200 with a 295 OBP, 106 WRC plus. The home runs certainly giving him some life there. But look, we expected a regression at some point from Rice. We expected him for things to catch up, the excitement to wear off, the confidence to kind of level out, and we're seeing the results of just him being a rookie, which is, ups and downs in a season. So, I'm not really surprised by that. The thing about Wells, Ryan, that really impresses me is that he looks like a veteran out there. You know what I mean? Like, you see Ben Rice, sometimes he makes a mistake. Sometimes it's like, okay, like, he's young. You see that. Even Volpe, even still, you're like, okay, like, some mistakes, some pitches he shouldn't have swung at, out of zone stuff. This guy, Austin Wells, looks like he's been in the league for 5 years already. Like, he looks like he already has that composure of an MLB proven commodity. And I think that that's what gets me so excited, that his adaptation to and his assimilation to the MLB has been really seamless. And I think working alongside Jose Trevino has really helped him in that process. Same thing goes with guys like Tanner Swanson, our catching coach. So, right now I do kind of feel as though Wells is a long-term piece here, man. And if Augustin Ramirez picks things up, the defense gets better, you're going to see a really fun combo there for a long time. And Trevino still has another year of control. So, I do think that right now the Yankees are in a tremendous spot. Now, I'll ask you this. When Giancarlo Stanton comes back from injury here, where do you think Wells slots into the lineup? I imagine that when Anthony Rizzo gets back, they're going to put him back at first base. That's a conversation for another day. But do you think that Wells should be hitting number 5 or number 6? Because right now, I just don't see how you push him down the lineup. I think Stanton does end up hitting cleanup, or at least 5th, but maybe those two guys are interchangeable. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I have a couple of thoughts. Number one, when it comes to Rizzo and Rice is slumped, but everything under the hood for me is fine. Like, his whiff rate is around the major league average, zone contact rate around the major league average, barrel rate well above the major league average, swing decisions well above major league average. Like, I think it'll even out at some point. He has like a 212 BABIP. He hits the ball way too hard and way too well for him to have a 212 BABIP, in my opinion. But we'll see, right? Like, I mean, he's a rookie, as you mentioned. Is this just growing pains? Is he not a major league hitter? We'll find out. I have confidence in him. I've had confidence in him as a prospect. I have confidence in his approach and his profile. We'll see how that moves going forward, but I'll take 106 WRC plus Ben Rice over whatever the hell Anthony Rizzo's giving you, because he's god awful. But as it pertains to the cleanup spot, Giancarlo Stanton is a better hitter than Austin Wells. I know Austin Wells has been great lately, but I'm going to bank on Giancarlo Stanton being better than Austin Wells. I don't think that's a controversial take. I don't really want to get myself too caught up in recent trends, because that's when you end up that's when you end up making some misevaluations or overstating a player's role on a team. I view Rice and Wells are the same WRC plus. I view them as they're going to help this team by giving them more pop from the left-handed side later on the lineup, right? At the deadline, they need to find, if they're going to if they want a left-handed hitter at the 4 spot, you got to go find it, right? Like, you can't, I don't think it's wise to make your two rookie left-handed hitters fill that role for you. Could Rice and Wells get really hot and kind of force themselves into that role? Absolutely. But let them play that hand. Let them force you to do that. Don't force them into it, if that makes sense. Don't overstate a player's role based on recent trends. Make them play just so damn well that you have to do it. It's kind of like what Wells did to force Verdugo out of the cleanup spot. He played so well, he forced Boone's hand. That's really what it was. And obviously, I know Chris Kirshner asked the question, and Boone was like, yeah, I slept on it, I thought about it, and that's what we're going to do. So, I think overall, they need to get a cleanup hitter. They need to go out the deadline, and they need to be aggressive getting a cleanup hitter. It's interesting because their deadline, and Alex, I want to kind of get your take on this. I was talking about this on a live stream last night. It feels like they need to address the bullpen, the rotation, and the lineup. But if you want to address all 3 of those things, one of those areas needs to be less addressed than the other. You know what I mean? In one of those, are you going to just settle for a mid-rotation starter? Or are you going to settle for a decent, a project arm in the bullpen that isn't necessarily great, but could be great? Are you going to settle for, a decent position player? I don't think they can settle for a decent hitter. They have to get a good hitter, and I mean decent is in like a 100 WRC plus hitter. They have to get a guy who's at least a 110, who's at least giving me a 110, preferably a guy who's at least giving me a 120, right? If they're going to get one 110 guy, they have to get two, I think. They have to get two 110 guys, just deepen the lineup more. That's a fine strategy, but they have to get, they have to really up their position player group, and they also have to really up the bullpen. I don't think you can rely on a project arm. Alex, I think they need an immediate, that was a terrible fucking snap. There we go. They need a guy who immediately comes in and you feel like they could close out games for you, like a Tanner Scott, like a David Robertson, there are various arms in the market who are performing at a very high level. So Alex, I just, does it feel like to you like they need to get more offense? They really need to get more of a punch, because you start kind of formatting the offense, and somebody was like, hey, what if they got, would you take Lowe and Paredes or Rengifo and Skubal? And maybe I'm crazy for saying this, I'll take Lowe and Paredes, because could you imagine stacking that lineup together? You go Paredes, Soto, Judge, Lowe, Stanton, Wells, Volpe, Rice. I didn't even mention you put Dominguez. I mean, Dominguez over Volpe, Rice, and then Volpe ninth. I mean, Alex, 1 through 9, you're going to kill teams. You're going to murder pitching staffs. You're going to bludgeon people. Rodon can give up 5 runs in the first inning. You'll score 10. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And Rodon was excellent last night. I don't want to, just throw that comment out there and not give him credit for what he did yesterday. It was an excellent performance. But, I mean, if they can really supercharge the lineup, and you talk about Austin Wells, the 6 hitter, or Austin Wells, the 7 hitter, Ben Rice, the 6 hitter, Ben Rice, 7 hitter. Now we go from, oh, these guys aren't good enough for their roles to, yo, these guys are solid. These guys are really helping this lineup. You know what I mean? It's kind of like how I felt with Verdugo for a while until he really crashed, where it was like, is it a problem that Verdugo's on this team, or is it a problem that he's the 4 hitter? For a while, it was that he was the 4 hitter. I think that was the problem. Now it's a problem that he's on the team. He's got an 85 WRC plus. He's awful. He's IKF levels of bad. So, I mean, I don't know, Alex. I think getting bats to move these guys off of premium roles in the offense will only make this lineup deeper. They won yesterday because the middle of the lineup produced. The 6, Volpe hit a home run. You had Wells hitting home runs. You had guys in the bottom, Cabrera having 2-run singles, LeMahieu hitting a home run. That's how they won that game yesterday. It can't just be, I know it was a Soto show at the end. I mean, the guy, Alex, the guy's freaking walking around the bases, which I'm all for. Him and Siri, I'm all for both of that. I love the theatrics, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think they need to really supercharge this offense, so Wells isn't the cleanup hitter.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you said a lot of good stuff there, and you mentioned where to allocate resources: bullpen, starting rotation, lineup. I think the Yankees can. And look, I love a Tanner Scott. That I think is the guy that's been connected to the Yankees the most. Makes a lot of sense. I know today John Morosi connects the Yankees to Chad Green. I hate that. Yeah, I saw that and I sent it on our group chat and I was like, Chad Green, am I seeing this right?
And look, I like him as a Yankee, but
he was fine years ago.
That shit stinks right now. Have you seen the strikeout rate, my man?
The underlying metrics are horrible.
That shit stinks, dude. I had to get the Lysol. When you sent in the chat to grab the Lysol, I had to spray my phone a little bit. I mean, the scent off my phone, it was nauseating.
Stinky.
$10.5 million, by the way, for next year too. It's not a club option. You have to pay him 10.5. He'll be the highest paid player in the bullpen by a country mile. I mean, are you kidding me? Absolutely not.
And he will regress to being one of the worst pieces in that bullpen.
Let's just bring back the 2022 Yankees. Let's get Hicks back. Let's get Donaldson back in the fold. We can use a third base. We can use a corner outfield. Let's get Green back in the mix. Let's just bring the whole gang back. What do you think?
The Stankies, the New York Stankies. Well, listen,
get Higashioka back in the mix. I mean, hey man, he's actually hitting.
He would be the best of the bunch there. But listen, Chad Green, if you want any reasoning, any more than enough that you already have to not want Chad Green back, he ranks in the bottom percentiles in barrel rate, hard hit rate, ground ball rate. He's below average in whiff rate, below average in average exit velocity. His expected ERA is 4.35. Right now it's 1.83, I believe, or 1.88 rather. Expected is 4.35. The guy is getting extraordinarily lucky. The expected batting average is 241. His fastball velocity is 95.3. I mean, it's dropped over the years, but listen, this is a guy that if you look at his page, if you look at his underlying metrics, he is going to regress the next couple months. Unless he keeps getting lucky, which is possible, but everything suggests that he's going to become a very bad bullpen arm for the rest of this season and next year as well. So, yes, do not touch him. I don't know why even John Morosi would report that. The Yankees, who are analytical to a degree, must be looking at this guy saying this makes absolutely zero sense.
I'm
for us
sure
unless
they
it's a
checked
salary
in and
dump.
went like, hey, like, will you salary dump him to us and like, we can
Right,
maybe
for
exchange the
nothing.
money, right? Like that kind of thing. I'm sure it was exploratory. And also John Morosi, like same guy who was like, Tani's on the plane to Toronto. So I mean, like, grain of salt with the man. Like, no disrespect to Mr. Morosi, but it's not like his track record is the strongest. And I just want to throw this out here. You know what regression looks like, guys, when it's a low ERA and a really bad underlying metrics? It's what Rodon went through. Because if you remember, the underlying metrics for Rodon weren't great. That's what that looks like. It looks like, dude, getting straight bombed. Like, just getting the shit kicked out of you.
And he gives up homers, too, in the past.
Yeah, dude, he has like a 1.8 something home runs per nine. Like, Green has the lowest strikeout rate of his career and the highest home run per nine rate of his career. And he's 33 and he's going to make $10.5 billion next year. I'm sure the Blue Jays were like, Yankees, please take him. Like, dog, I'll take it. You want to trade it? You want to trade us Alex Verdugo for Chad Green? I wouldn't even do that deal. And I don't think Verdugo is very good. They are...
Oh, hey, you know what? I'll give them DJ LeMahieu if they give us Chad Green, so we can dump his salary.
If they want to take a bunch of more money and get a useless infielder,
just swap contracts.
Well, useless might be a stretch. LeMahieu's a great defensive infielder. He hit a home run yesterday. I'm going to avoid saying anything bad, or maybe we should continue to say bad things about him because it seems to be
seems to work.
A trend.
Every time we crap on a player, they end up turning around the next day.
Yeah, Alex Verdugo,
screw
you were
you,
awful
DJ.
at baseball. Yeah, like maybe that'll work. I mean, look, honestly, and I think you could agree with me here. I would rather look stupid saying a player is bad that actually turns out to be really good. Like if Chad Green comes over to the Yankees and he has like a 0.50 ERA, like that's what I would want, right? Like I don't want people to conflate what we expect to happen with like what we want
reality.
to happen. You know what I mean? Like I think that's important. It's also important to note like the Yankees can really change the outlook of their season at this deadline, right? They're 1.5 games out of the division. They are firmly ahead of everybody in the wild card. I know it's not like a massive lead, but their schedule lightens up. The Red Sox are a really difficult schedule. They haven't gotten off the gates great. You're playing Boston soon. You kind of have destiny in your own hands. I know you get Philly soon. They're really good and they might curb stomp you. But if you can handle business today, tomorrow, and against the Red Sox, you really put yourself in a position where, okay, you've comfortably put yourself in the postseason mix, right? The second best team in the AL East will make the wild card. Two teams in the AL East will make the postseason, right? I think I can confidently say that. They have a 5.5 game advantage over the Red Sox. They just need to start beating them head to head. And also Brian Cashman, I know that he, I'm not saying he makes the best moves. I'm not saying he always comes out and wins the deadline, but he does make moves. He made 4 trades in 22. I think it might have been 5. He made a bunch of trades in 21. Made a bunch of trades in 2018. Made a bunch of trades in 2017. The one year that stands out like a sore thumb is 19. 2020 that doesn't count. 2020. Like I can tell you, like with good information, Alex, there were players who the Yankees were interested in who straight up told their team, if you trade us to New York during the COVID pandemic, we will not play. Yankees really couldn't do anything about that. Cashman's going to be active, and I think we're starting to see some of the supplementary players on this team take steps forward. It's just a matter of if the Yankees can get the right pieces. Can you pull off that trade, for Isak Priest or for Brandon Lowe? Or can you get me that bullpen piece in Tanner Scott or David Robertson or Kirby Yates or whoever it may be? Can you get me a starting pitcher? Does it have to be... I don't necessarily think we're getting Garrett Crochet. I think that's out of the picture for me at this point. They need bats really badly. Dude, if they can pull off like a trade for a middle of the rotation starter, a 3, right? A guy that'd be behind Cole and Heel, and they go out and get 2 bats and a reliever. That's a great deadline, in my opinion. That fixes your needs. The reliever has to be a quality one, though. Not a project, not a guy who, there's some interesting things, but they're, really bad against lefties or something. I'm talking like a dude who comes in the 9th inning, and locks the game down. Like, you get what I mean? Like Tanner Scott. Like, I like Clay Holmes. It's just like it's been really rocky lately, and I think some of the problems he has also stems from the Yankees haven't pitched him in the last 7 days. He didn't pitch in the All-Star game either. So you can't have him sit for 7 days. You can't. It's never gonna work. He's a command. He needs his command, and I feel like he's never sharp. He hasn't been sharp lately because the Yankees aren't really pitching him a lot. Now that's partially on him too. His pre-game preparation is in between days. Is he doing enough in his side sessions? I don't know. But Alex, they need how do I put this? Game 6 of the World Series. You're up 3-2 in the series. You have a 2-run lead. How do you feel with Clay Holmes in the 9th?
how
Season
do
on
I
the line.
feel? I feel like I'm having heart palpitations. You know,
Right?
I feel
Like,
I
you need
feel
a
like
guy.
it's cardiac clay or it's cardiac clay. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
either way, you're having a heart attack, but one is much better than the other. I don't
I
know.
need a guy who misses bats. I need a guy who punches tickets. I need a guy
Tanner
who,
Scott's
I
gonna
need
do
a
that for
reliever.
you.
Right. I need a guy who really punches tickets though. Like no 24% strikeout guy, but he's interesting. No. Punch tickets. Like a dude who racks that shit up.
That's what
you know what I
we
mean?
wanted
Like,
Tommy Kahnle to be that, but he just gives up too many homers.
right, that's the problem. He misses bats, but it's the homers. Weaver has really been awesome in that role of like a multi-inning relief role, but I really value the multi-inning relief.
Clarkie. Could Clarkie end up being like a closer like that? Could he do that?
I think he's capable of it, but you know, like I also think like, dude, the Yankees need the starters, right? Like, do you
True.
How much do you trust Rodon to playoff start? Scale of 1 to 10.
After yesterday, okay, I need to see like 10 more of those straight from Rodon what he did yesterday. Right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe a 5. Maybe a 5.
Okay, Stroman. I think a 5 is where I'm at.
Yeah, I think
Rodon's
5
a
is fair for
right?
him.
Like,
I think they're
know
both in
the
the
ERA
same
is
boat.
good. I think
just
the
don't
ERA is
know.
good, but the struggle I have is the 5th inning. Like, he really struggles. Like,
Yeah.
the later we get into a
Fatigue
start, and
is
that's concerning.
steep.
And the velo's down. Like, there's a lot. I know a lot of people in the comment section had a problem with what I said about Stroman, and he had a good start. I don't think I said he had a bad
He's a
start.
fine
but
back end rotation arm.
Right,
For this team,
he's
but
just
he's
like-
not a playoff arm. You know what I mean?
I have to be brutally honest. Like, I don't think the underlying metrics look good, and I don't think the velocity looks good. And you know, I want Stroman to prove me wrong, but I'm not gonna like shy away from that. Like, I'm gonna be honest.
No,
with,
no,
with
I think it's fair
with
to
the
be
fans and all that stuff. And then you know, you look at Cortez. And
I have
at
a hot
home-
take.
What?
I think the Yankees trade Cortez.
I saw that in The Athletic this morning, and I mentioned it on the live yesterday. I was like, I asked, and I kind of want to get your thoughts on this too. So Tommy Edman hasn't played a single game for the St. Louis Cardinals this year because he's rehabbing, and unfortunately, I think he dealt with an ankle thing too. So he's in the shitter right now. Would you basically rerun that 2022 trade? Would you trade Nestor, which is like a league average left-handed starter, for an injured infielder? Would you do it? Like, would you do that?
I think
I'm not
that
sure.
Nestor has some value. You know what I mean? I think he
Right,
has some value. I don't think you have to toss him away like, you know, like an old girlfriend. I think
Right.
that he does have some value, and you
Well,
know,
I'm not really familiar
they're-
with that process. Usually, it's the old girlfriend tosses me away, but you know.
Well, okay, well in that case, you're the Nestor Cortez in this situation. You have some value.
I'm
I
a
would
league
say.
average starter with good underlying metrics. You know, like,
Yeah,
I got the
exactly,
thing going
exactly.
for me. Yeah, I got that. I got
Exactly.
the high strikeout rate, you know, low walk rate, good xDRA. You know,
Yeah, I mean, look, the way I see it right now is the Yankees are going to have to trade some players that are
Yeah.
able to play for other teams. Listen, I know we've talked about this other guy in the past, Jonathan India. The Reds are not good. They're 5-5 their last 10. They're 9.5 games back in the NL Central. I don't see how. I mean, they could climb out of that somehow, but they're more likely sellers than acquirers, than buyers, right? Like India could be an option, but then what happens with Gleyber Torres? You have to trade him. You have to trade him for bullpen support.
I want to point this out too when it comes to India and the Reds. The Reds need outfielders. The Yankees don't really match up well with them because they have like a decent rotation. Like if you look at the rotation, it's pretty strong. They've got like it's not like they're a Nestor Cortez away.
What do you give them though?
They
What do you give them?
I feel like they would ask for Spencer Jones, and
Would
like
you give Jones for India?
that's a great question.
It's a really tough one. I was thinking about it. I'm like,
It's
I really
2.5
hesitant.
years of Jonathan India. It's 2.5 years, and Jonathan India he has been a good offensive player, but the defense, like I think OAA is wrong on his defense. As him was +1 every single year. He's been an awful defensive second baseman.
Right.
I know he's naturally a third baseman, and maybe he can slot in there and be a good player. But like, are you trading Spencer Jones for like a? Oh, maybe he's like not that bad, or maybe he's not that. This guy's not that bad defensively. He's more of like a 4-WAR player instead of a 2 to 3 WAR player. Like Jonathan India, let's be honest with ourselves. Like, he was an average hitter in 22 and 23. Like, what's to say it doesn't go back to that? Like, is he more
I
of
don't
like a
really
Gleyber?
love giving Jones for him.
Right.
Personally.
It's just but at the same time, I
Power's
also
also
understand.
inconsistent.
Right, and I also understand like Jones, his values is really hurt by like just the contact tool not going where it needs to go. Do I think it gets better going forward? I don't know. I hope so. Like I think in an ideal world,
I could see Augustin Ramirez being traded too.
I could, because catching, right? Like the Yankees have Wells and Trevino, and they have Narvaez behind Wells, and I wonder when Narvaez is gonna I wonder if Narvaez plays today because they have a lefty going, and Wells has caught 4 straight games and he hasn't
Narvaez
had an off day.
is a great defender.
Yeah, he's an awesome defender. I don't know who's pitching today. It's Heel and Narvaez. I don't know if he's ever caught Heel, but I know in spring training Narvaez was pretty involved. So like I don't know. Like I'm just kind of throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks, but. Maybe Narvaez plays today. I think Narvaez is a decent backup. He hits lefties well.
Yeah, he's
we'll
fine.
See. But yeah, I mean, they could trade Ramirez. I like Ramirez a lot, but I think we both understand like the future of this team needs to be like this team needs to put themselves in position to win this year. Because if they win the World Series this year, Alex, does anybody give a shit who we traded? Like, do you care who we lose if we win the World Series this year?
And so I don't, but you have to. I think it's also important to mention that the likelihood of winning a World Series is low to begin with. So what happens if we trade this player and we don't win the World Series, which is more likely than not, right? It's more likely that you're not going to win. That's where you have to ask yourself about the control, right? When it comes to guys like Tanner Scott, if you're going to go all in on Tanner Scott for a half-year rental, you have to be willing to extend a guy like this, and because they're going to want a lot for a guy like that. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to want a pretty penny for Tanner Scott. I think that the way the Yankees go about this, and unfortunately, it just is the reality. I don't think that we go out and get a big name reliever, bullpen arm. I think that we go out and we get a couple of solid players with underlying good metrics that we can build up for the late season push. You get Scott Efros back, hopefully, and things are ready. You get Cody Poteet and Clark Schmidt that can help in the bullpen. I think we end up trading Nestor Cortez probably for bullpen support. Or something of that nature, or maybe a package for an infielder. But to me, the most important piece that we're missing is a leadoff man. I don't think that Ben Rice is going to be the solution at leadoff for the rest of the season. I think in a postseason atmosphere, I don't trust him yet. He's too young for me. I think that we need a guy that like Isaac Paredes or a Jonathan India that could step in and be a leadoff man on day one. Is going to see pitches to hit, make damage contact, pull the ball. By the way, Volpe pulled the ball yesterday a lot, and look what happens. Is a home run, a couple base hits. Who would have thought that? Like, just listen to our freaking podcast. It's like, this is an interesting situation for the Yankees where I think that their priority is the leadoff man because they need somebody who's going to get on base ahead of Soto and Judge. And then you get Stanton back, you have Wells, that 4-5 spot is locked and loaded. Hopefully Verdugo starts to turn things around. You get Jason Dominguez back, maybe he plays really well, and suddenly you're like, okay, well, maybe Verdugo isn't our solution for the playoffs. There's a lot to happen for this team, but I think we make a couple like smaller bullpen moves. I think we may make a big move for like an infielder that can lead off, and I could see us acquiring a starting pitcher. The problem is, if you trade Spencer Jones for an infielder, you can't go get a quality starter, right? Like, you're really going to struggle in that regard. Tanner Scott's not going to cost you a Spencer Jones. It'll cost you a couple of solid prospects. But here's a take that I want to get your thoughts on. I think that the Yankees drafted so many pitchers because they knew other teams wanted pitchers too. I think they tried to stack as many pitchers as possible so there wouldn't be as many good options on the board for other teams. I could see some of the guys they just drafted being moved already. Because I think they're good toss-ins, and I think that other teams probably had their eyes on them, and they fit their mold, and they probably wanted to get a little bit of leverage. I think there was a reason, there was a purpose behind that, because they drafted a ton of pitching talent. So, right now I kind of feel as though the Yankees have something up their sleeves. They had an idea, they had a concept, they're working with a strategy. But for me, it's the leadoff position. They need a competent leadoff man who is going to get on base right off the bat in the playoffs. A guy that can go up against great pitching and work and put in good at-bats and make damage happen. So I do think that that's where my priorities lie. I think starting rotation, like stuff like that, I think a starting pitcher would be great. I don't know how realistic it is or what kind of name the Yankees would be looking for. I would love a great bullpen arm, but you just can't get everything. So to kind of round about this episode, we started with Austin Wells, got to this point. How would you rank like the three needs of starting pitching, leadoff, and bullpen? How would you rank those three?
All right, so I think the Yankees, number one, are going to need, they're going to need, I think, infield bat, right? Like, they need one infield bat. If they walk away from the deadline without an infield bat, awful deadline. Doesn't matter what happens, it's an awful deadline. Unless they, fucking get, the best outfield player that isn't Aaron Judge or Juan Soto in the world, which isn't happening, it's a bad deadline. They're going to need one infield bat. Again, I need a reliever. I need a really good reliever. Am I willing to compensate in terms of when I say project, I'm a guy who sucks, that trying to turn Dennis Santana into a good reliever, that kind of thing. Not this guy has AJ Puck I've wrote about and I've talked about he's not in that category because he's been a good reliever this year. He's just been an awful starter. That's not a project to me. That's a reliever worth getting. Furthermore, they need either a second, big time bat or a really good starter. And based on, so they can either go after reliever and infielder, a really good starter or a really good bat, And then that final piece is just a supplementary version of the thing they didn't get. So if they didn't get a good second bat, get a supplementary infielder, then get a good starting pitcher, get a middle rotation starting pitcher, that kind of thing. I also saw a report just now the Red Sox are potentially looking, they could deal like one of their rental players like Jansen, Pivetta, or Neal. I have no interest in Kenley Jansen. I think Nick Pivetta is interesting. He's been a solid starter this year, and he misses bats. Like, he's a rental. Would he cost a lot? Probably not. He might be the perfect fit for that, like, 3-starter role. And then Tyler O'Neill, like, he's an outfielder, so, like, not particularly sure if the Yankees have a ton of interest there. They could maybe move off Verdugo and go, we're not going to bank on Dominguez coming back, which, that's fair. I wouldn't hate that. And O'Neill does hit the absolute shit out of the baseball, so, that's on my radar. But, I think out of that group, Pavetta's probably the only one that, like, I feel is realistic for the Yankees. I think Pivetta kind of fits the mold. Like, if they were able to get, like, Lau, I don't know, Tanner Scott. Let's just throw Tanner Scott. Lau, Scott, and like Nick Pivetta. Like, I don't know. And then you get like and then you get like another bat. I don't know who that other bat would be, but you get another bat. That's a good deadline to me because you fix up the rotation a little bit. You miss some more bats in the rotation. Pivetta could move into a reliever role if you feel like he's not doing it as a starter because he really does miss bats. And then you get 2 infield bats and a reliever. I'm happy with that deadline.
Yeah, I mean, that would be great, right? I think that would be fine. Walking away with some pitching talent. And I think we have reinforced on the way. Clark Schmidt is a good pitcher. Cody Poteet can be a solid back-end starter, or, he's not the best player in the world, but he can be a fine bullpen piece, long-inning relief guy. Scott Efros, we do have a lot of hopes for him. So I do think this team is heading and trending in the direction where there are reinforcements on the way. Cashman's going to be active. It's just a matter of what. We haven't really heard that many rumors. Chad Green is like the last rumor I wanted to hear today. I was like, come on, like anything that we could have heard. It's the Chad Green rumor. Like, come on, give me a break. But that's probably not happening if I had to guess. Adding $10 million in salary for Chad Green is like literally shooting yourself in the face. If they do that, I will have no faith in this front office moving forward. I just don't understand really what the game plan is in terms of the priorities, what they view as the priorities, but you cannot go into the playoffs with Gleyber Torres playing like this, and Ben Rice, a rookie. I know they get Rizzo back at some point, but who knows what he's going to look like coming off what he was doing and a fractured right arm. And then DJ LeMahieu, and look, he had a fine game yesterday, but that's one game in a sample size of 40 where he has been horrible. Not even bad, horrible. And one thing I noticed about DJ, Ryan, that I think may interest you, his ability to hit the ball to the opposite field has dropped by 13% in the last 2 years. This year compared to last year, 6% drop off on Oppo hitting Oppo hits and contact. That was interesting to me. Ground ball rate spiking, and also his ability to hit opposite field dropping significantly. I always thought that was a part of his game that was really strong, ability to hit those through the gaps and elevate the ball, drive it to right field. I think that was a really big benefit for him, but that's dropped off significantly. Something I wrote about this morning and noticed was interesting. I thought was, could be something to that maybe improve moving forward. So it could be a problem with his bat speed or just reaction timing or loading off his back foot. The foot could be hurt. It could be anything,
or he could
right?
be old.
Or he's old.
I mean, I'm chalking this.
The retinas are getting old.
I love Michael Kay and I love Paul O'Neill. Those are two, staples of the broadcast. But hearing them talk and say, there's no way it's gone away that fast. It's like, yes, there is. You're talking about he was good in spring training. Dude, it's spring training. I mean, come on, man. There are guys who are pitching who will never play Major League Baseball. Come on. Mm-hmm. You don't have to do it. Let's be honest with ourselves, right? Like, yeah, you can kind of lose it like that, right? Like, how many times we've seen a guy just lose it like that, right? It happens so fast. That's how aging curves happen. And look at the expected batting average year by year. It's dropped every single year since 2020, I think. Mm-hmm. There's just like a small spike in 22, but then it keeps going down. Like, come on, guys. Like let's. I know they're the Yes broadcast. They're not gonna say, oh, he's old and bad, but like, for the fans, like, I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. It's age. It is. It is.
Listen, I think that they have to be positive, and I understand that, and I love those guys, right? Like they're phenomenal. Enjoy watching them broadcast.
Yeah, they're great at what they do. Clarification.
Great at what they do. But they have to be fair, and I think fair might not be the right word. They have to be optimistic. They've seen a lot of baseball more than we have, so maybe they're right. Maybe there is gas left in the tank. But we're seeing the signs of injury the last couple of years in age, and I think it's blatant. The stats, show that. I mean, he had a home run today, Ryan, but that pitch was it a slider? Hung. It was a 76 mile an hour like breaking ball over the middle of the plate. Like if he didn't hit a home run, it was one of those pitches like where you're playing MLB The Show, and you don't have to move the freaking stick. You just literally wait until the pitch is there and press A.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I will give him credit though, because those are the kinds of pitches he wasn't hitting before, and Volpe as well. Like Volpe got a middle pitch, and he has to pull that ball in the air for damage contact every single time, but he has not, and he finally did there. That's important. He's come out of the All-Star break hot, that being Volpe. If Volpe can get to like a 100 WRC plus, dude, he's such a good defender. He's such a good base runner. Like,
he'd be a great player.
It's
for a long
almost
time.
painful. It's painful that he's not a better hitter, because it's like, if he was, right, you just think about, gosh, if you were just a better hitter, you're talking about a really good baseball player. Like, we're not talking about a good one, a solid. We're talking about a great baseball player if he was a good hitter. So hopefully, man, he finds it at the plate, because if he does, he's in the 99th percentile in outs above average. This is and he's in the 98th percentile in base running value. He's just so good on the everything except for hitting the baseball. It's so frustrating. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen him get hot, and we see what he can do when he's confident. So, we'll get there, but but long tangent away from Wells. 35 minutes in, we were just planning to talk about Wells, but of course, if you're listening to us and you have been, we get to spin off on other subjects, and that's what makes it so much fun. But listen, this team, they need help. The help's on the way, but it's just a matter of how much it's going to cost us. That's always been the question. What are they willing to give up?
Brian Cashman, please save us. Please save us, Brian Cashman.
Please save us. I mean, dude, wasting
Cashman.
another MVP season from Judge
Big
and
bad
wasting
Brian.
a elite year from Juan Soto would be painful to remember, like looking back on this season.
We need the cash god. We need the cash god.
We need the cash god.
We need the cash god. We need, dude. We get the right pieces. If we win the World Series this year, and it's an if we win the World Series this year, like, not only will it be awesome because you win a World Series, it will vindicate everything Brian Cashman has done. If we win this ring, I feel like, I'm not gonna say anything bad about Brian Cashman for 5 years. I'm not gonna say it. I got nothing bad to say about him. Aaron Boone will become a World Series winning manager with a 600% winning percentage. You go from it's
a Hall of Fame level stuff.
To, legitimately, you change the way your managerial tenure is remembered. This is a huge year for the Yankees. If they lose again this year, is there going to be a way to build up excitement for next year in the way that we did it? Because this year, it feels like, right? It's got to be this.
Yeah. But also, in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, when is Judge going to hit that wall? We've seen Rizzo hit it. You see DJ hit it. Cole's getting older. When are we going to lose one of these guys that make us go? You know what I mean? When are they going to start to hit that age where they just can't do it anymore? I think Judge has another 2 or 3 years playing at a very high level until maybe he's an everyday DH down the road, maybe after Stanton's contract expires in 4 years. But Cole's getting there. That injury this past year, he's never been injured like that. So, that was a warning sign to me. I am worried about that, and I think that the more time we waste, the further we get away from reaching that World Series dream. So, Cashman's got to get creative, as he said a couple weeks ago. He's got to make the right moves. He's got to not sell the whole farm, but I'm okay moving Spencer Jones if it means bringing in a guy that's going to help us win a chip. You know what I mean? That's just the reality of the game. I don't want to move Spencer Jones. I actually despise the idea of even thinking about moving him. But I want to win a championship more than I want Spencer Jones to be great. And I think that's just priorities. It's just where my mental lies. But guys, always happy to hear your thoughts down below in the YouTube comment section. Make sure to like and subscribe as always. We'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.
Perfect.